A group of girls crowd around Kuchinashi, gushing over her volleyball performance from the day before. She smiles, thanking them as she soaks in every bit of the attention. But the moment doesn't last long. A male student comes storming in, loudly complaining about public disorder. It's Kiritsu, the uptight, by-the-book member of the Public Morals Committee. The girls immediately turn on him, jeering and mocking him for being an oversensitive hall monitor. Kuchinashi raises a hand to stop them. Not to defend them, though. She looks at Kiritsu coolly and delivers a quiet warning. If he doesn't stop his annoying outbursts, she just might have a word with her grandfather, the school principal. Kiritsu mutters under his breath about her abusing that connection, but he doesn't back down. He stands his ground, pointing out that her group is blocking the hallway. Nearby, a pair of male students watch the standoff unfold in hushed whispers. They note that Kuchinashi, the so-called man-hater prince, has had students expelled for far less than this. They're genuinely surprised Kiritsu is still standing, though one of them adds in a rather crude aside that anyone will lose focus around someone who looks like her. Kiritsu puts his whistle to his lips and blows. The crowd scatters. Order is restored. Kuchinashi watches him, glaring, her irritation quietly simmering. She doesn't just hate him because of his smug, self-righteous attitude. She hates him because no matter what, his test scores always land above hers. He is always on top of her academically. And the moment that thought crosses her mind, she catches herself. Her face goes red. She shakes it off immediately, burying the thought. What she means is she's going to outcompete him. Beat him where it counts. And if that's not possible right now, then she'll find another way to remove that particular annoyance from her life entirely. That evening, Kiritsu is alone in a classroom, quietly working through a report. Kuchinashi steps inside and approaches him from behind. She comments on his diligence, her tone carrying just enough sarcasm to sting. He's irritated the second he hears her voice. But before he can say anything, she pulls a chair right up beside him and sits. Her plan is simple. The security camera's running. They're alone. All she needs is for him to slip up, break one rule, just one, and she'll have everything she needs on tape to push for his expulsion. She shifts slightly closer, just enough to edge into his personal space. Then she coughs softly, drawing his attention. The trap is set. Kiritsu doesn't even look up from his typing. He just mutters that she's in the way. Kuchinashi stares at him. That's it. No reaction, no discomfort, nothing. She grits her teeth. Fine, new plan. She deliberately fidgets with her uniform, loosening it just enough to be a noticeable violation of the dress code. Surely that would do it. Fluster him, make him panic, get him to do something she could use. What she gets instead is fury. Kiritsu's eyes land on the uniform and his expression shifts immediately, not to embarrassment but to sheer outrage. He snaps at her, calling her reckless, and tells her not to move. Then he reaches into his bag and pulls out a sewing kit. Kuchinashi blinks. He threads the needle with practiced ease, leans in, and gets to work sewing her buttons back on without a single moment of hesitation. She had calculated every possible reaction: panic, awkwardness, a rule broken in the heat of the moment. Not this. Never this. And now he's close. Too close. Close enough that she can't think straight. She sits completely frozen while he works, her heart doing things she absolutely did not authorize, her mind scrambling to regain control of a situation that has somehow turned entirely against her. Then she let out a strange sound. Kiritsu paused and asked, "Did I stab you with the needle or something?" She quickly brushed it off. "It's nothing." He pulled her closer, murmuring, "It's hard to nod it properly like this." Her face flushed bright red. Annoyed at how oblivious he was, she thought, he just wants to stare at me, doesn't he? Frustrated, she silently urged him to stop hesitating and finally make a move, grab her melons already. He finishes, snaps the thread, and leans back like nothing happened. He packs up his bag, mentions almost as an afterthought that he has a part-time job at an abacus class to get to, and stands up. Then he pauses. He tells her calmly and directly that he's heard the rumors about how she lures students into breaking rules, about her little setups. He looks at her one last time and states plainly that it won't work on him. He will not break the rules, not for anyone. Then he walks out the door. Kuchinashi sits alone in the empty classroom, the silence pressing in around her. Her face is burning, her hands won't stop trembling. And the strangest part, the part that unsettles her more than any of it, is that she isn't even angry the plan failed. Because somewhere between the needle and the thread and that unbearable closeness, something shifted. His composure, his conviction, the way he didn't bend, didn't falter, didn't even flinch. She doesn't have a word for what she's feeling right now. But it doesn't feel like hatred. Morning comes. Volleyball practice is in full swing. Her teammates cheer her on from the sidelines, full of energy, completely devoted to their star player. Kuchinashi smiles back at them, the same composed, polished smile she always wears. But her focus keeps slipping. Just for a fraction of a second, just one unguarded moment, and there it is again, the memory of him leaning in, needle in hand, eyes fixed on her uniform like it was the most serious task in the world. Her grip on the ball tightens. She pushes through it. Later, walking through the hallway, the internal argument starts up again. Part of her wants to avoid him completely. The embarrassment alone is reason enough, but she can't afford to drop this. She needs a new angle, a smarter approach. Trick him into catching her breaking a rule, get it on record, and use it to make a point about what happens when school regulations get ignored. That's the plan. That's all this is. The fact that he keeps wandering into her thoughts uninvited is simply a minor, deeply irritating inconvenience that she refuses to examine further. Then a voice pulls her out of her head. "Hey, Kuchinashi." She turns. It's Chiharu, one of her male classmates, strolling over with a casual wave. Chiharu reaches over and brushes a leaf off her shoulder. Easy and natural, tossing her a compliment about morning practice while he's at it. Kuchinashi accepts it gracefully, but internally, nothing. Not even a flicker. If anything, the gesture is slightly irritating. Then, halt! She nearly jumps out of her skin. Her head whips around, her pulse spiking. He found her already? She isn't ready. She hasn't set anything up yet. She hasn't... Kiritsu blows straight past her. Doesn't even glance in her direction. He marches straight up to Chiharu, eyes locked on the boy like a heat-seeking missile, and immediately starts shouting about a uniform violation. Where, he demands to know, is Chiharu's uniform jacket? Chiharu shrugs and says he threw it away. Didn't like how it looked on him. The silence that follows lasts exactly 1 second. Kiritsu explodes. He orders Chiharu to write a full reflection paper on the spot, no negotiations. Chiharu turns and bolts. Kiritsu gives chase without a moment's hesitation. And just like that, they're both gone. Kuchinashi stands alone in the middle of the hallway. He walked right past her, didn't look at her, didn't acknowledge her existence for even half a second. She doesn't know why that bothers her as much as it does, but it does. It really, genuinely does. She exhales sharply, straightens up, and locks back in. Fine. If he wants to act like she doesn't exist, she'll give him a reason he can't ignore. It's time to move forward with the plan. Trash duty, after school. Kuchinashi had made sure of that, checked the schedule, confirmed Kiritsu would be there, and prepared accordingly. She had also, very deliberately, rolled her skirt up higher than regulation allowed before heading out. She spots him by the trash area and approaches, keeping her expression neutral. Somewhere nearby, a hidden camera is already recording. The setup is clean. The plan is simple. He notices a violation, makes a comment, she captures it on film. Proof of his strict enforcement tactics. Leverage she can use later. She's ready. Kiritsu looks up. His eyes drop to her skirt. His expression shifts. Here we go, she thinks. He shouts that her skirt does not meet regulation length and ordered her to fix it immediately. She tilts her head, keeping her tone light, pressing him to be more specific. Exactly what's wrong with it. She just wants to understand the issue clearly. A smile tugs at the corner of her mouth. She almost has him. And then he reaches into his bag and pulls out a measuring tape. The smile disappears. She watches, speechless, as Kiritsu kneels down in front of her, not for any reason other than pure, unshakable professionalism, and begins to measure the distance from the hem of her skirt to her knee with the focused precision of someone who has never once done anything halfway in their entire life. He announces the exact measurement. Above regulation. He states it plainly, without embarrassment, without hesitation. Then he looks up at her and explains with complete sincerity that when students in positions of influence break the rules, others follow. And when enough people follow, the entire disciplinary structure of the school starts to unravel. He isn't flustered. He isn't thrown off. He's just completely, infuriatingly, impossibly right. Kuchinashi stares down at him, her hidden camera recording every second of a plan that has, once again, collapsed entirely in the wrong direction. Kuchinashi's flustered, but she keeps her composure. Whatever his reasons, she notes, he's only ever thinking about the rules. Nothing else, just the rules. Kiritsu stands back up and asks, straightforwardly, whether she understands why the uniform code matters. She takes a breath and explains, calmly, that she's wearing gym bloomers underneath. Practical reasons, nothing improper about it. He acknowledges that, then tells her it doesn't change anything. The skirt length still needs to be corrected. She panics internally. He's about to leave and she has nothing on camera yet. So she pushes back, argues that the rule itself is vague. What does must reach the knees even mean precisely? If he's so certain about the standard, she challenges, perhaps he should demonstrate it. Kiritsu accepts without missing a beat. He steps forward and carefully unrolls the waistband, adjusting the skirt to its proper regulation length with the same focused, methodical precision he apparently applies to everything in his life. Kuchinashi stands rigid throughout the whole thing, barely breathing. When he finishes, he looks at her and asks if she's satisfied. She stammers out a thank you. An actual, genuine, polite thank you. She doesn't know who she is anymore. Kiritsu turns to leave, and before he goes, he states plainly, for the record apparently, that he only corrected the skirt to enforce school regulations and that nothing inappropriate took place. Then, he's gone. Kuchinashi stands alone by the trash area and slowly her composure comes back to her. She strains up. Right, the camera. She still has the footage. Whatever just happens, whatever her face was doing throughout all of that, she at least has him on record diligently enforcing uniform regulations. She can work with that. She retrieves the camera and checks the lens. A trash can had been sitting directly in front of it the entire time. She stares at the blank footage. The universe, apparently, is on his side. The next morning, Kuchinashi walks up to the exam results board and immediately feels her stomach drop. First place, Kiritsu, again. Her mind goes straight to her grandmother, the principal, and what happens the moment she finds out her granddaughter isn't sitting at the top of the rankings. That is not a conversation she is willing to have. She turns away from the board, jaw set. This is his fault, all of it, and she needs to erase him before things get any worse. But she also has to be honest with herself. Every plan so far has collapsed the moment he opened his mouth or reached into his bag. Improvising clearly isn't working. She needs information, real, useful, actionable data. She needs to understand exactly what she's dealing with. Research mode, starting now. Her first stop is the clubroom, where she finds a group of girls already deep in complaint. Apparently, Kiritsu had been measuring skirts all over the school, and the general consensus was that he was completely out of line. Kuchinashi freezes. He does this to everyone? She had walked into that trash duty situation thinking she was setting a unique trap, and he had just been out there, measuring tape in hand, enforcing dress code violations across the entire student body like it was a normal Tuesday, which apparently for him, it was. She files that away and moves on. Next stop, the homeroom teacher. She goes in ready to dig. There has to be something, a complaint, a concern, even a mild criticism. The teacher lights up the moment Kiritsu's name comes up. Exemplary student, takes his disciplinary role super seriously, a genuine asset to the school. Kuchinashi walks out of that classroom with absolutely nothing. The most annoying person she has ever encountered in her life is, by every available account, completely spotless. She's going to need a different approach entirely. Every official channel has come up empty. No complaint, no incident, no record of anything she could use. Kuchinashi is running out of options. She turns to Chiharu. She's seen him around Kiritsu enough times to know he might have something useful. She finds him, pulls him aside, and gets straight to the point. What is Kiritsu's weakness? Chiharu immediately tries to wriggle out of it, insisting they aren't actually friends, that he barely knows the guy, that she's asking the wrong person entirely. Then he looks at her face. Whatever expression she's wearing, it works. He caves almost instantly. He thinks about it for a moment, then offers his best guess, that Kiritsu is probably like any other guy. If there's a girl he likes, that's where the weak point is. Kuchinashi walks away turning that over in her mind. What kind of girl would someone like him even be interested in? And more pressingly, if she's nowhere near his type, if he never lets his guard down around her specifically, then the whole angle is useless before it even starts. She's so deep in thought that she doesn't notice the door swinging open directly in front of her until it's almost too late. Kiritsu steps out. She barely holds back a curse. No camera, no setup, no plan whatsoever. He spots her immediately, eyes narrowing, and demands to know if she's up to something that violates public morals. She tells him no. He looks unconvinced but moves to walk past her anyway. And then his own feet betray him. He trips over nothing, goes down hard, and his glasses fly clean off his face and skitter across the floor. Kuchinashi stares. Then her mind starts moving. Without his glasses, he can barely see. She watches him patting the ground in a mild panic, squinting uselessly in every direction. A weakness, an actual, real, unguarded weakness handed to her completely by accident. She sits down, already thinking. But before she can do anything with the moment, Kiritsu, crawling blindly across the floor, bumps directly into her. She startles. He freezes. Her thoughts race ahead immediately. There's a surveillance camera nearby. If she can maneuver this just right, angle it correctly, it'll look like a perfectly innocent accident caught on tape. She starts calculating the positioning. Then Kiritsu unknowingly touched her where he shouldn't have. She immediately blushed, thinking she feels weird. Kiritsu suddenly grabs her melon and she thinks to herself that she's being ravished. Kiritsu squints at her from approximately 2 inches away. Then he accuses her loudly of tripping him on purpose. She fires back that he fell completely on his own and then crawled into her himself, which is entirely true, and she has no idea why she has to explain that. The reality of the situation seems to land on him all at once. He scrambles backward, somehow locates his glasses in the chaos, shoves them back on his face, and shouts at her to go home before speedwalking with whatever dignity he has left. Kuchinashi sits on the ground alone, staring after him. He didn't even register what happened, couldn't see well enough to notice any of it. All that quick thinking, all that rapid scheming, and the whole thing dissolved into nothing because the boy is blind without his glasses. She feels genuinely embarrassed that she overthought it that much. Meanwhile, Kiritsu is already halfway across the school grounds, breathing harder than a simple walk should require. He mutters to himself, jaw tight, calling her underhanded. Not for the scheming, not for any of the traps, for the volleyball uniform. It turns out that of every tactic Kuchinashi has deployed against him, the one she didn't even plan, showing up in her volleyball practice uniform, is the one that actually gets to him. That, apparently, is Kiritsu's greatest and most carefully guarded weakness, and he is absolutely furious about it. The reason he tripped in the first place, though he would never say it out loud, the volleyball uniform. The sudden, completely unexpected sight of her in it had short-circuited something in his brain for just a moment. Just long enough. He pushes the memory down firmly and focuses on the important thing. He has his glasses back. That's what matters. Everything else is being forgotten immediately. The next morning, Kuchinashi does something she almost never does. She goes to the school infirmary. The nurse looks up from her desk and blinks, visibly surprised. Of all the students she expected to walk through that door, apparently this one wasn't on the list. She asks if something happened during training, an injury maybe. Kuchinashi shakes her head. No, nothing like that. She sits down and tries to explain, which turns out to be harder than expected. She describes feeling tense, restless, a strange heat that comes over her without warning, especially when, she chooses her words carefully, thoughts of a certain classmate happen to surface. She's quick to clarify that she finds the distraction annoying. That's the whole problem. These thoughts appear uninvited and leave her feeling completely unsettled, and she wants it to stop. The nurse listens to all of this with a calm, patient expression. Then she smiles. It's stress, she says. Simple overthinking. Nothing more. Kuchinashi opens her mouth to argue. She is not worried about anything, not in the way the nurse is implying, but the nurse continues, gently suggesting she tries separating her mental state from her physical symptoms. Deep breathing, light stretching, basic relaxation. Kuchinashi stares at her. That's it? That's the advice? She walks out of the infirmary muttering under her breath that every single one of her symptoms is entirely Kiritsu's fault, and she refuses to do breathing exercises because of him. She's still muttering when she passes the craft room and stops. There he is.
inside, alone, going about whatever responsible, rule-abiding task he's assigned himself today. Kuchinashi pauses, glances up and down the hallway. No surveillance cameras in this stretch, no other students nearby. She composes herself, rolls her shoulders back, and steps inside. Her eyes land on a hose near the wall. A plan forms. Simple, low stakes, just enough to test her own nerves and catch him off guard at the same time. A small splash near her feet. Barely anything. She picks up the hose. The water pressure is significantly stronger than she anticipated. Kiritu takes the full blast. He shouts that it's cold, stumbling backward, his glasses immediately fogging over completely. Kuchinashi stands frozen, hose still in hand, staring at what she has just done. He scolds her, voice sharp, demanding to know why she's always causing problems. He pulls his glasses off and starts wiping them down, and Kuchinashi watches him and thinks privately that he is massively overreacting to what was meant to be a light, playful prank. Then he gets his glasses clean, puts them back on, and winces. He complains about the chill and reaches for the hem of his soaked shirt, starting to adjust it. Kuchinashi looks away so fast she loses her balance. She goes down, landing on the wet floor in a graceless heap. Kiritu stares at her. She stares at the ceiling. He looks around at the water everywhere, then back at her and tells her flatly to clean it up. She snaps back that the floor is slippery, as if that explains the situation, which it does not, and his expression makes clear that he has no idea what she's trying to say. They both reach for something to wipe the floor with at the same time. Their hands collide, they pull back, try again, get in each other's way. One of them overcorrects, the other shifts direction, and somehow, within about 30 seconds, they have both managed to make the mess considerably worse while also bumping into each other twice and communicating entirely in increasingly frustrated noises.
Kuchinashi tips forward, catches herself just in time, and takes a breath. The situation looks bad. She knows exactly how it looks, but she pivots fast, adjusting her footing and shifting the narrative before it can settle into something embarrassing. She lets out a small sound, feigning a minor stumble, and asks for help steadying herself. Kiritsu looks at her, then looks at his hands, then looks around the room. He reaches over and grabs a nearby clay figure, extending it toward her like a makeshift handle, using it to help her up without making any direct contact whatsoever.